We're getting you caught up on the jealous husband murder trial in South Carolina. The jury reaching a verdict over the weekend. You just saw Bud Ackerman testifying. Did he help himself? Now let's look at the closing arguments. The state's up first, and really they're pointing to his actions on the night in question.
This might as well be a drive-by shooting with a gun. Because what he had and what he was driving was a weapon. And his foot was on the trigger from the time he left Key West till he got back to Avid Road. He had a weapon, and he ended up using it. Davis McClendon had nothing to do with the breakup of Meredith and Bud Ackerman. Nothing. That's clear. That's undisputed. Nothing to do with it. Sometimes things just don't work out. And you go through the system and you move on. They just don't work out. He had nothing to do with that. They began a relationship 6 months afterwards. They started dating. No bad blood. There's no bad blood between Davis McClendon and Bud Ackerman until April. April 28th, he finds out about it. Were they trying to keep it private? Keep it out for him not knowing? Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. You know why? Because of this. I wish they'd gone in a cave somewhere. Yeah, they wanted to keep it away from him. But he found out. And again, credibility, believability. Well, I wasn't that mad. Really? Judge this. I wasn't that mad. And I submit to you, that's when he started getting angry. And it got worse and worse and worse up till May 7th. Well, what about the text you did when you text somebody and said he's a, excuse me for cussing, I'm allowed to do this when evidence come in. I apologize, everybody. He said he's a piece of when he first calmed out. He's a piece of Well, that's what shows in his heart and in his mind, doesn't it? You start off with that. And then there's a text to Danny, I won't say his last name, Danny B. What the hell is Davis thinking, man? I mean, what the hell, Danny? I have no idea what you're talking about. This is on 29. Pass this around when you go back. Pass this around. He's been Meredith. That's news to me. I don't keep up with anyone's business. I have my suspicions, but it was confirmed by her. I can't believe he would do that to me. I can't believe he'd do that to me. This is 4 weeks away from their final divorce. He wasn't going to let them be together. He wasn't going to let them. It wasn't going to happen. I think he decided that in April. No, sir. No, ma'am, they're not going to be together. I'll make sure of that. I can't believe he would do that to me. I mean, damn, I've known him my whole life. Damn, I don't know. Danny texts us back. I don't know what to tell you, bud. Damn, I don't know either. We got this brain here. I thought about this the other day. Oh, Roderick Masita. God bless him. I think he said he works in the surgery room. He's an assistant. Isn't it funny? We got his brain, and you got the surgical assistant. Just happened to have a Ring camera. Guarantee you didn't know that. And didn't know Terry Cummins was out there. And I want to say, thank God for a bug. He didn't know a bug was going to come by and activate that thing to catch Bud. The bug got Bud. You remember when Terry Cummins said it's motion activated, and you actually go back and see, you can go watch and see a bug go by. Thank God for the bug. 1:11, he goes home. Tells his folks. Davis is still on the ground. Doesn't call. 1:31, calls his lawyer. Well, did you call 911? You were talking about credibility, believe it. Decided on this. Decided on this. Well, I was about to call, but then I heard the sirens. So I knew they were there. I knew. That'll be up to y'all. Was he gonna call 911? Oh, I heard the sirens. I knew they'd be there. That's 1:44. And then the police show up at 1:54. 21, 31, 41, 51. 43 minutes after this happened. Nope. 911. No help. And he's placed under arrest. I'll agree with one thing. Bud Ackerman said. And don't forget what was going through Davis's mind. Y'all try to rope him in. All these conversations, don't forget that. He said that it happened. That's up to y'all if you believe those. Is that consistent with that? That comes from him. Davis can't speak back now. I'm speaking for Davis. I agree with one thing Bud Ackerman said, and he didn't dispute it. I could have said that. What the do you think you want? Ladies and gentlemen, there's nothing else to talk about. I agree with him. We respectfully, most respectfully, ask you to find Bud Ackerman guilty of turning Davis McClendon into 311-5146, and we ask you respectfully to find him guilty of murder. Thank you.
All right, so that's a bit of the state's closing arguments. When we come back after this break, we're going to turn our attention to the defense and hear a bit of what they told the jury ahead of that jury coming back with that fast verdict. I mean, we're talking under a half an hour. That's all it took this jury to arrive at their decision. You wonder if they had their minds made up already as they're hearing these closing arguments. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Good Monday morning to you. We're so glad you're spending part of it with us here on Court TV Live. I'm Julie Grant. We're getting all ready for the suitcase murder trial for Sarah Boone. Jury selection starting today. Now, a couple other trials for you here that we're watching as well on Court TV. We've got testimony picking back up in the home renovation murder trial for defendant Corey Binderham. This guy's accused of murdering one of his clients, Susan Malden. She hired him to do some work on her home. We've got that case, and we've also got a new one starting up in Georgia. Melody Walker Ferris is the defendant in this one, and she's accused of murdering her husband and burning his body on their property. Court's going to convene at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Our team is on the ground there as well. Excuse me. Now, let's get you some more from the jealous husband murder trial. I told you we got a lot cooking for you this morning. We're recapping the best moments in this case. So Bud Ackerman, tried in South Carolina, convicted over the weekend. If you missed it, we wanted to make sure we showed you what was happening. So we saw the state's closing argument. Now let's see some of the defenses. Take a look.
The case is not based on emotion. It's based upon facts. It's based upon evidence, and it's based upon law. And that's what you're going to have to decide in this case. What are the facts of the case? What is the judge's instructions on the law? And how am I going to reach a verdict? That's where we are, and that's where we're going to be going during the course of your deliberations, and maybe, for a while till I finish, until the state gets another chance to respond, until a judge gives you what the law is in the case. But this case is a tragedy. Nobody ever said it was not a tragedy. Someone is passed away, someone is dead, a family has lost their son, and I would never say anything other than that it is nothing. It is a tragedy. Your duty, though, as I said, is to decide the case based on the facts of the case, the evidence in the case, the lack of evidence, and the law in the case. There is a text going back to some time for April 9th that he's well, you know what, ladies and gentlemen? When you know somebody all their life and you find out that they're dating your wife or your husband, either way, what are you supposed to say? Is that something that's supposed to make you happy? I submit not. I submit that doesn't make anybody happy. It wouldn't make anybody happy, husband or wife. Did Bud Ackerman know right away that that's what happened? I suggest to you not. I suggest to you the momentum carried his vehicle to the end of the road, near the gate, not too far from the gate, and he got out to see what had happened. Now, he got out, and he was there maybe around a minute or so, you recall whatever the testimony is. And he saw him laying there on the side of the road. There's no dispute about the fact that that's where he was. David Torres told you from the numbers that he lacked and analyzed was this. And I'm not going to go into the technical aspects because, frankly, ladies and gentlemen, I don't understand LV and Delta V and all that stuff. I have no idea. But he testified that Davis McClendon was standing 5 feet back from the front of the vehicle, based on the calculations he made, and 3 feet from the car toward the middle of the road. 3 feet to the middle of the road, near the middle of the road. He also testified based upon the CDR in the car, the brain of the BMW, as Mr. Meadows referred to the brain of the Ford, that the car was moved back about 2 feet by momentum. And this is the key. He testified from the CDR that the car moved laterally to the right 2 feet as well. Now, if you were just sideswiping a car and just going a parallel swipe, how did that car move 2 feet to the right? How did that wheel turn to the right? How did you leave that scuff mark? There's only one explanation. Bud Ackerman tried to avoid the collision. If the defendant intended to kill him, why did he just drive straight ahead and kill him in the road? Think about that when you're thinking about reasonable doubt. If he intended to kill him, all he had to do was go straight ahead and run him down. That's not what happened. We know that's not what happened because you could see the evidence from the crash. The third thing I ask you to consider when you're deliberating this case and whether or not there's proof beyond a reasonable doubt or a real possibility of innocence, not guilty, if the defendant, Bud Ackerman, intended, with criminal intent, to kill Davis McClendon, why would he crash into his vehicle? What is the logical explanation that the state can come up with that he would have crashed into the vehicle at an angular degree? Ladies and gentlemen, when you go back there and you deliberate, I submit to you these are inescapable conclusions. Now you decide what the case is. Nobody invades your province. Nobody goes back there and tells you what to do, what to say. That's why the judge asked you the other day, has anybody approached you? I mean, it's no outside influence, none, not supposed to be. And you came in here with no opinions, but these are the important factors in this case, based on, in addition to what you heard from our experts. If the defendant, Bud Ackerman, is charged with murder, intended to kill Davis McClendon, why would he crash into the vehicle? What other explanation is there except to avoid the collision? Thank you for your attention.
All right, so you've heard the arguments from both sides, and it didn't take long for the jury to reach a verdict. Less than 30 minutes.
We, the jury, unanimously find the defendant on the charge of murder of Davis McClendon guilty. Signed, four-person. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, if this is still your verdict, will you please raise your right hand?
Okay, let the record reflect 12 hands have been raised. I want to thank you for your jury service. What matters the most to the court is that my jury performs its duties efficiently, conscientiously. Your verdict that you reach does not matter to me, but what matters is that you perform your duties as you're supposed to. As I told you on, I think it was Wednesday when we came back, I was pleasantly surprised.
Oh, and that right there, the most emotion we've seen from Bud Ackerman throughout this whole case. He sat there with a poker face on day in and day out, and you saw his head drop. It seemed like his shoulders sunk in. He looked like he was, perhaps on the verge of tears there, learning the news that the jury found him guilty in less than 30 minutes' time. Ooh, that's fast. Let me talk about it with a very seasoned trial attorney. You know him and love him, Tommy Pope, on the show today. Tommy, let's talk about the speed here. Our field producer, Tiffany Smith, had the stopwatch there and counted 26 minutes for this, 26 minutes to get this verdict. And we were talking on our morning editorial meeting saying, you wonder if that's a court TV record. I mean, in all the years, and maybe in courthouses around the country, too. That's unusually quick. Have you ever seen a jury come back that fast?
I've seen some, and it always scares you as a prosecutor when they come back that quick. Of course, this case was in South Carolina. I wanted to point out John Metters was an assistant solicitor back when I first started my career, and I'm pretty sure my first trial was against Jack Swerling. So I think the reason they went so fast, those two guys are getting old, certainly not me, and they just needed them to be able to hurry up and sit down before they fell asleep or something. But seriously, I think, the evidence was overwhelming. I was thinking about what Jack said in closing regarding the hitting of the BMW, and it reminded me almost of a circumstance where you see somebody shoot and kill somebody, and then they kick the body.
Right.
So I've already hit you, and now I'm going to tear your car up too on the way out.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's good. That's good. You think it had to have happened in two separate events, huh?
Yeah.
That there's no way it was, this was just such a bizarre incident, wasn't it, Tommy? The meetup and the wife, there were some people who think that maybe the wife was wrong here in trying to kind of get these guys together, like they needed to have a meeting. What is there to discuss at this point? The divorce is happening. She's moved on. What do you think about her in terms of an actor in all this? Do you think she has unclean hands?
I think if they're unclean hands, it's the fact that, and it happens all the time, the fact that you didn't wait the extra 4 weeks till everything was over. And so again, people are human, their emotions, their need for affirmation or to move on or whatever the case may be. I mean, the only thing I can see, the only piece of even legality he had to hang his hat on was, like he said, they were still married, but you could tell from her testimony, you could tell from what was going on that, I hate to use the Garth Brooks example, but she's going to make it, he never will. She's moved on and he couldn't. And unfortunately, he clung to that so hard and so tight that it caused him to take a life and for him to spend the rest of his life in jail.
Mm-hmm. Right, Tommy. Yeah, it got messy, trying to control the situation and I think, keep his marriage together, keep his family together. It seems like, watching this, hearing the story, it's almost like he was in a bit of denial, about what was going to happen. And now he's going to be locked up, as you've said, for the rest of his life.